So I'm going to start with a piece of video. We'll watch it.
Die nächste Haltestelle ist die Buchenwaldstraße.
So you know it already, okay? So this is an example of a work of art which we discussed in the class that I'm just going to talk about. So the presentation today is dealing with a class that in which I was the teacher, in which we studied Holocaust testimonies in Israel. And the main question, the research I did together with my students, was how can we bridge between this dichotomy of conceptions of how to teach. Okay, in Israel, when we are dealing with Holocaust testimony, you can identify dichotomy between these two circles. On the one hand, we have this pedagogy of remembrance, in which testimony is held as a sacred source. We try to evolve identification with the witness in our students, and we encourage personal emotional experience and empathy. This is on the one hand, and on the other hand, you can find a study which stress critical pedagogy, in which we try to have a skeptic examination of historical source, academic investigation, and critical reflection. So I was trying to see how can I bridge between those two separate conceptions. And I was following my inspiration came from two different sources. On the one hand, Liora Gubkin is writing that empathetic understanding by itself may not be our best pedagogical strategy for teaching about historical trauma. Empathetic understanding that depends on identification creates as epistemological and ethical problems when teaching about trauma. So this is on the one hand, and Esther Yogev is saying that a learning encounter that introduces the students to contradictory historical narrative can produce new insights regarding the historical account and its role in their lives. The inner dialogue with prejudgments enables the learners to discuss the complexity of their own collective identity. So, guided by these thoughts, I went into a course, and the students in this course were 18 Jewish pre-service teachers, 16 women and 2 men, all born and raised in Israel in the age of 25 to 30. They were part of the Outstanding Students Program in Kibbutzim College of Education, and they came from from various disciplines, such as humanities, sciences, arts, etc. And the material in this course was, we studied many kinds of testimonies. So on the one hand, We had first-hand testimonies of survivors, of perpetrators, and of bystanders. We also studied second cycle testimonies, such as family members' testimonies, interviewers, and teachers that testified about their experience. And also, we discussed cultural products based on testimonies, such as the one we saw in the beginning of the presentation, artistic, popular, and academic. Most of the material in this course was on video. So our approach in class was to investigate the personal and mediate experience of the students. I encouraged them to express their understanding and actually to testify how do they experience the testimonies or the products. So we stressed, we tried to create open atmosphere, sharing experience and feeling, active participation, studying through exploring of personal knowledge, connect class interactions with curriculum material. We involved literary, historical, and educational tools. We used critical reflection on the learning process itself. The students ran a diary, each one of them a personal diary. We had also a collective diary, and I was conducting a teacher diary. So we had many sources, and the lessons were recorded on video and transcribed. So when I analyzed all this material, I find that a major assumption was that in the students' conception was that every Jewish Israeli citizen is a Holocaust survivor and a potential victim of future Holocaust-like events, as the Eyal Naveh writes in his book. And it seems like the Holocaust trauma was coming again and again in the class discussion, fluid with current personal and national traumas, and even with the Holocaust Remembrance Day itself. It seems like a major trauma in the students' lives. And okay, so Dominique Capra is writing that an ethical response to Holocaust testimonies, he defines it as empathetic unsettlement. And I was asking, how can such ethical response regain in Israeli context, as Amos Goldberg puts it? So, to make it short, the emotional identification of the learners was used as a subject for reflective learning, enabling students to go beyond passivity and victimhood, highlighting the choices made during the study of testimony, expands the student space of choice and encourage them to active ethical agents. So this is just in short the findings of my research, which I did together with Professor Eyal Naveh as part of the postdoctoral study in Mofet Institute. That's it. Thank you.